I wanted to talk to you about Bitcoin because we've also had that conversation over the years. But for some reason, it doesn't seem to be separated from the markets. The whole idea was that it was supposed to be, a non-correlated asset. And every time the market goes down, for the most part, it doesn't seem to go up.
Well, first of all, I've always maintained, and I would just tell you today as well, that this is an instrument that you use as a hedge. I don't think this is something that you trade. And the more that people obsess and focus, in my opinion at least, on what the price action is, the more that it will confound you, the more it will frustrate you, the more that it will look correlated to other assets. But the reality is it's fundamentally not, because it is underpinned by a set of beliefs that are completely orthogonal to the orthodoxy that runs the world today. And it is completely the inverse of how the financial infrastructure of the world operates. So from my perspective, I still think that what I talked about sort of 8 or 9 years ago still holds, which is as a 1% hedge in our portfolio. I think of this as the insurance policy I use to sleep soundly at night, just in case the central banks and the governments of the world step on a landmine. That will perform. And so between now and then, I just think the more people obsess about price action and the more that they want it to behave like a stock or a bond, the more frustrated they're going to get. They're going to find ways of connecting dots that don't exist. It's just not what it is.
By the way, this is now going to connect Bitcoin and Elon Musk together and your space efforts with Richard Branson. You probably have heard the Winklevoss twins claim that Elon Musk is effectively going to put the gold business out of business or devalue gold, given what he's going to be doing up there in space, and that's going to make Bitcoin that much more valuable. Do you buy that?
I have no idea what they're talking about.
You've heard it, though. You know what I'm talking. You've heard them say this.
I really wish I could give you a smart answer, but I have no idea what they're talking about.
Chamath, if you send Ben Affleck and Bruce Willis up to an asteroid that has 10 trillion tons of gold, your supply-demand dynamic is going to be affected. I honestly think that's what they're talking about, actually mining an asteroid, which is not that far off.
Well, there's a couple of problems. One is called the rocket equation. There's a small problem of getting onto the asteroid, mining it, generating enough energy to come back, bringing back all of these wonderful riches that you find there. I mean, I hope it happens.
I would think our technology just in alchemy, we ought to be. I don't see why we can't move around a couple of electrons and protons and just make gold here, but obviously we can't. But
sure,
right? It's harder to mine Bitcoin and it's getting harder and harder than it is to mine gold, and I think that's what you're saying.
I mean, I think the reality is that, look, the last few million coins of Bitcoin are obviously going to cost more energy than the first, 18 million. But in the grand scheme of things, again, this is something that, in Bitcoin parlance, people say hodl. You buy it, you hold it, you put it away. And honestly, I think you hope that you never need it, because the amount of actual chaos that will drive Bitcoin appreciation is not something we actually really want to see. Now, that being said, if it does happen, I think it will create an enormous power redistribution, and it will push power, it'll push financial accessibility to the edges, to billions and billions of people. And in that, I think there's something to be really proud and excited about.
Chamath, if you take a small percentage of the global currency, financial currency, whatever you use, and you divide it by 21 million, even if it were, I mean, it is mind-boggling, but the numbers just sound crazy that you talk about when you do that math. I don't know if you, it's just hard to believe.
No, but I understand. But just remember, that will get subdivided many, many thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of times, and it will and it can represent, a large plurality of the monetary supply of the world.
Right.
And if that happens, I think the reality is it'll just be an incredible technical feat. And I think the great thing is there'll be transparency, there'll be accountability, and there'll be fairness. And I think those are really powerful traits of a winning product.
I mean, what's it? It's
But again,
like around
this is why-
11,000. I mean, you're talking about much bigger numbers than 11,000, and I don't know. It still
I know,
sounds,
and this
sounds
is
like
why I
science
think
fiction.
a 1% position
Right.
is not unreasonable, and it's something that justifies a position where we can all have it. Again, put it under your mattress. Don't think about it.
You talked about Bitcoin. You talked about the ability for Bitcoin really to push higher. I'm not sure if you went out and printed hats and T-shirts with 400,000 on it, but we've seen Bitcoin double in price basically since that call there. I am wondering not only where you see it going, but what you think is actually going to drive crypto higher.
Well, I think one thing that we're seeing is the sudden interest in retail. In a story that appeared yesterday on Bloomberg, there was a discussion about how a lot of the crypto outlets are being overwhelmed. They're starting to limit the orders because they can't handle the demand. Now, Romain, I think in the short term, what that's telling you is, we're moving into a speculative frenzy, and that was one of the reasons for my tweet on Monday to say, perhaps it's time to take some money off the table here. But the other side of that is it's demonstrating that crypto is becoming much more mainstream. And the $400,000 price that I talked about really was based off of the supply of gold in the world. And crypto, in a lot of ways, is more attractive than gold. It's portable. You can use it to buy things with. We just saw a player for the Carolina Panthers insist that half of his salary be paid in crypto, which David Tepper, obviously went along with. So, the acceptability of crypto is rising rapidly, and I think Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies have potentially a lot of upside.
That Guggenheim's been requesting to be able to buy crypto on behalf of its investors. Have you been buying it? Has Guggenheim waded in yet?
Well, Caroline, I don't really think we're effective yet for any of our mutual funds, and we're going to take the feedback of our clients in terms of what they would like us to do. But it's nice to know the flexibility is there if it's in the good interest of the clients. But in some of our private funds, we have already purchased it, and I think, as I recommended to somebody, if you believe what I said, that it'll go to 400,000 eventually, 2% of your portfolio will be 20% of your portfolio before this is over. So, you don't want to get too overweight, but certainly an allocation of a couple of percent of your portfolio seems to be a prudent thing.